Hello and welcome to this video. My name's Barry Beckham. In my world of photography, I'm generally trying to make my images stand out from the crowd, or I'm at least trying to create my images a little bit better than average. So here's a couple of my trade secrets that involve filters. But as a viewer of those images, hopefully you'll not be aware a filter was even applied. There are times when simplifying an image will make it more appealing. Now, what we mean by simplifying is to simply remove some of the photographic detail. The Impressionist painters understood this principle many years ago. We do a very similar thing when we create a monochrome image from a colour one. We're removing detail, the colour. And if we've chosen the right image, the result is often far more pleasing to the eye. And what I mean by the right image is one that lends itself to a black and white conversion. It has a full range of tones from rich blacks to sparkling whites. Some colour images that have lots of fine detail can be improved in a similar way by simplifying them. Now, those viewers who have been around a while may recall a set of filters called Buzz. But I find exactly the same type of filter now in Topaz Studio 2 in their stylistic filters under the heading of Abstraction. So let's begin with this image in Photoshop's main screen. The image we're viewing is from a Canon 5D camera. So we're looking at an image which is 20 megapixels. It's around 5,600 pixels on the long side. Now, it's a good idea to work on a copy. So I'm going to hit Ctrl J and you'll see a copy reproduced in the layers over on the right hand side. Now we need to go to our filters menu. Topaz Studio 2 filters will install within Photoshop. So if we go to the filter menu at the top left of the screen and we go down the bottom to Studio 2, there's the options that we require. Now, when this opens up, there is quite a lot within it. So let's just go to the ones we're interested in. Now, we can do that by going to the filters. The ones we're looking for are in the stylistic set, and that's the one we want, the abstraction. Now, we need to go over to the right hand side, but just before I do, I'm going to increase the magnification here so we can see a little bit more clearly what we're doing. Let's move over to a little bit of that tree and that tree there. So what we're going to do here is to try to find a nice setting which we can save as our own preset. Because if we go a little bit too high with the simplify size here, if I step it up to about there, you can see the setting is 38. You can see the effect of the filter is much greater than we really want. So we've got to temper this. So I'm going to bring it down. I usually find something around about 5 works well. But I've been using a set of filters in a previous version of Topaz and they were called Buzz Sim. So there could be a slight difference here. So while we're trying to zero in on a setting that appeals to us, we may want to go back to the top left and look at the original image. If I click, there we can see the original. Click again and I can see the filtered version. Now, the filtered version doesn't look a great deal different. And if we look at the simplify size, we can see we've got 0.05. So maybe I need just a little more than that. So I'm going to go back down and rather than use the slider, sometimes I find sliders a little difficult to get the setting I want. So what I'm going to do here is overtype this value. I'm going to try adding 3 to that, so 0.08. And then we'll go straight back to the original option and we'll click to see the original and the filtered version. Now we're beginning to see a bit of a change. But we do have the image greatly enlarged, and the whole point of this is to add a subtle filter effect so that when the image is seen on screen it looks just subtly different, but no one can tell that a filter has been applied. So let's assume just for the moment that I'm happy with that filter effect. But just for this exercise, maybe we'll push it just a little further. 0.10. And what I'll do now is I'll accept that and we'll open this up into Photoshop. So I'm going to go up to the tick on the top left of the options and click to open this up. We have to remember we're working on a high resolution image here. It is going to take a few seconds to apply the changes we've set here. Now with the image on screen, we're looking at the original at the moment. And as you can see, I've got Topaz Abstraction now as a label alongside the one we filtered. So as I turn it on, you can see the subtle change that it makes. I think the filter needs a little more work, and I think I'm going to go back and have a look at adding a little bit to the strength of the filter as well. So let me just turn this one off for a moment. I'll make another copy of my background with Ctrl J, and we'll open up the filter once again. Now as you can see here with the filter system opened up, I've got my image enlarged to just over 100%. I've got the same simplify size of 0.10, but you'll notice down at the bottom right that I've increased the detail strength to 0.50. So up at the top left, if I click the original icon, we can see the original image. And back again, you can see it's a slightly different and subtle effect. So what I'd like to do here is let me click to fit this in the picture space. Let's assume that this is something we wish to save. We need to go down, midway down on the right hand side to the little floppy disk icon, a little bit outdated now that, but save a current setting, it says, as a preset. So if we click that, you can see we can give this a name. Barry's favourite. I'm going to put 0.10 in there because over time I could decide to change my mind and add a little more or a little less of the filter, and I could even include the detail strength as well. But on this occasion I'll leave it. We do get the opportunity to put a description, and again that could be quite useful. But when I click OK, what I'll do next is apply this. I'll hit the tick up at the top left and we'll have a look at this in Photoshop. Then we'll come back and take a look at how we locate that preset. So here we have the original image once again, but I have enlarged it just a little bit. And here is the second version of the filter that I've just applied. So I'll just turn that on and off. You can see the very subtle change. Now what I've also done is just increase the values a little bit. So I'm going to need to create another preset. It takes a little while, I think, to zero in on the subtle settings that does what we want but without overdoing things. But let's go back into the filter system and we'll take a look at making use of any presets that we've made. So as you can see by the spinning round of the screen, I've included a different image, typical of the sort of image where I would be applying this effect. It's very fussy, but it has something about it. Very good to use in slideshows and presentations. Not every image we produce can be a competition winner. So what I'm going to do next is to open up my presets. Down at the bottom right, you'll see that little down arrow. When I do that, a bunch of presets will open up. You'll notice there's two here with my name on. I've gone back in and made a change. So there is the original one we made. So if you want to get rid of anything you've made, there's the obvious way to do that. Select it and drop it in the bin. Yes, we're okay to clear that. This is the one I've changed, so I can just click to apply and allow it to be applied to the image. So let's go up to the top left. We'll give the image a bit of size and then we'll go to the original and click. So there's the original of the image we've just created. There's the filtered version, so you can see the effect that the preset we created has had on this particular image. And of course you can create as many presets as you wish. Now to finish this section, I've applied the Topaz filters to a slightly lower resolution image. This is from a Canon G16, which turns in about 14 megapixels. So I've got a similar setting to what we applied before, maybe a little bit greater, because I'm conscious of the fact that those of you who may be viewing this video on an iPad are going to have some difficulty in seeing the differences between the before and after, because the whole point of what we're doing here is the filter effect has to be very subtle. So what we're looking for here is that subtle balance. We need to be able to make a visible change to the image, but one that's not so visible that every viewer knows the image has been filtered. We need to be subtle. Here, just to bring this section to a close, I'll turn on the filtered version, and we can see the difference even without the image being enlarged. So there it is turned off, and there it is slightly simplified. I can zoom in just a little bit, and we'll take a look at the leaves and the falling water, and we'll do that just one more time. There's the before, there's the after. We've simplified the image, but we've done it in a very subtle way. Now, one of my other trade secrets is when I'm working with black and white images. Whether they're black and white images from my converted camera to shoot infrared, or they're just converted monochromes from a color image. That's what we're looking at here, an image from a Canon R5. It was originally color. I've taken the color away in Adobe Camera Raw. I've got an image which I feel is pretty good. It's got good rich blacks, it's got sparkling whites, it's got a good tonal range, it has that black and white sparkle. But what I've found in practice over the years is that if I use the Nik filters, I can just get an edge with my black and whites. So let me show you what I do with this image. Let's move up to our filters menu here. Down to the bottom, I want my Nik collection. And of all the filter systems we get within that pack, I want Silver Effects Pro. Now, over a period of time, there's 2 or 3 filters that seem to appeal to me constantly. Now, I've got all selected here. The first one is the underexposed EV 1 under. Now, with this image, I don't think it's appropriate. But what I've found with many images, particularly those that are a little bit lighter, we can apply the filter, go over to the right-hand side, and then just adjust the brightness a little bit for a very good result. But that's not really the filter I want to show you. So back over to the left-hand side, I'm going to scroll down just a little bit, because the 2 filters which I find myself using more often than not is this one, high contrast or high structure harsh. There you can see the effect. High structure smooth. There's not a great deal to choose between these 2. You'll notice the smooth has a little bit of a vignette with it, so we're going to apply whichever one suits us. But if I take you up to the compare button here and I click it, there we can see the original image. It looks good. But when I apply the filter, there's that extra bit of sparkle. It's not doing any damage to the image, it's just lifting it and it's giving it just that bit more impact. Both of these seem to do much the same. Now there are many others here you can experiment with, but I just wanted to introduce you to these two because for most of my black and white work, this is the last thing I do before I click OK down at the bottom right and open it back up into Photoshop. You'll notice that with this filter system, whenever we work on a background layer, it will automatically create an extra layer for us, and that's very convenient. Not only do we have a before and after to view, but it's nice to always work on a copy of the background. So let's just go to the top of the layers here and just look at a before and after in Photoshop. You can see that that is subtle, but it's well worth having. Now if you're viewing this video, as I said previously, on an iPad, there's no problem with that, but because we're making really subtle changes, the smaller the image we're viewing, the harder it is to see the change. So if you do get the opportunity to view this video at full HD on a desktop monitor, that may be the best way to view this. Of course, when we talk of adding a Nik black and white filter, we're looking to add one more level of impact to our image. That extra small step we may not have found ourselves. I'm not into using filters as a way to shortcut image editing. The black and white process will simplify the image, but of course we could combine a black and white conversion and a Topaz Abstraction filter too. There's many different filter systems made to work as a standalone piece of software or within Photoshop or Lightroom. For my style of photography, I do like to have Nik filters and Topaz filters installed on my computer. They definitely would be my first and second choice. I like the subtle effects they give me, and I also like how I can control them to achieve just the results I want. I'll see you next time.